Welcome to the Sports Guy Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. What a great weekend here in Connecticut. I talked about the weather the other day. It's been nice, been 80s, sunny, warm, just been great. Getting 2 solid days in a holiday weekend, is huge. Most of the time, oh, it's holiday, we got an extra day off, and it rains all weekend or something. Supposed to get rain tomorrow, but hey, I'll take these 2 days any day of the week. Shout out to our retired and active military as we celebrate this Memorial Day weekend. We thank you for your service. For me, surgery went well on Thursday, on the mend, healing pretty well. I was able to hit a local show on Saturday. I was really on the fence about going, whether I should go or just stay home and rest up. I was getting a little antsy after being home for 2 days. And I got a message from a listener, Jeff at Sound and Vision Collectibles, said he was going to be in the New York area, was looking for a show. He saw the Trumbull show, was wondering if I was going to be there. And I said, look, if you're going, I'll meet you there. That was all I needed, that little push to get out of the house Saturday and hit a show. Of course, I go to the show every month. I know all the dealers. So it's fun for me to go there, and it's crazy, even though all the dealers, or I know all the dealers and the people and what I always end up seeing making a deal when I go there, and it's not like I go there. I used to go to shows thinking, I got to get a deal done. Like I didn't want to come all this way and not get a deal done, and I'm way past that now. But it just seems like when I go there, it's always nice to see everybody's coming up with all this new inventory and always finding something to buy there. And you know what? It's a great way to spend a Saturday morning hanging out with fellow collectors, checking out cards, making deals, right? Doesn't get any better than that. And someone had messaged me earlier in the week about a card that they thought I would be interested in. And it turns out that card was going to be at the show. The person who owned this card was going to be at this show. So I knew I could take a better look at the card and possibly make a deal. So I headed down there Saturday morning, Zion case in my good hand. Being a holiday weekend, the show wasn't as busy as it usually is, but it was busy enough. I know I saw my guy Bill and Billy Sports Cards. He was set up outside, nice spot outside. And, he said he'd made some deals, but it just wasn't as busy as it usually is there. And understandably, holiday weekend, that's going to cut into foot traffic in any show. The card I was going to look at there was a 2023 Bowman Best Bowman U Bet. I'm going to hold it up here. Paige Becker's DC. It's on card auto. Actually, also, I'm trying to hold it up with my bad hand. Make sure you see that. It's a nice card. It's PSA 10. It's an on card auto. It's numbered to 50. It's a card that, right? It's off season. It's a card that should be down. A card that could have interest at the National, but more likely next year during the women's college basketball season is when this card would probably, people would be getting excited about this card. And being able to see the card before I went allowed me to do a little research on the card to figure out, the value, what I was willing to pay, what I thought it was worth. And that's kind of important because sometimes when you're on the spot and you're trying to, look everything up, there's always something you'll miss, right? And it's always nicer when you start thinking about something and there's just no pressure. A lot of times I find when I'm either side of the table, standing there with the phone in my hand to go look something up. I feel pressured because I don't type I don't type as fast as most people do on the phones. I'm a little bit slower, and I'm trying to hurry up as much as I can because I don't want to tie anybody else up. Plus, I don't want to tie myself up. I have other people coming to the table, things like that. So, um, it's nice to be able to kind of research something before you actually have it in hand and start negotiating with it, right? On this particular card, there were no recent sales on the card. There were two listed on eBay, one at $1,000 and one at $750. And this actual card was the one being listed at $750. Um, so I said, what are you looking for the card? $700. I said, okay, look, these two raw cards recently sold. One was $216, one was $275. And there was a PSA 9 numbered to 75 that sold at $475 on May 18th. So with this information, there was no way I was even coming close to $700 on this card. And it's kind of where we're going to get in this episode is just trying to figure out comps on cards, right? I mean, I have this information right here that these, two raw cards and one PSA 9. So on my side, right, how am I going to figure out the comps on this card? What am I willing to pay on this card? And we always, I always talk about if it's a PC card, it just comes down to what I'm willing to pay, or what anybody's willing to pay to put that card. I mean, we like to look at comps. We want to see what it is. It doesn't mean we're not going to look at them, but we're not going to rely on that if we're buying a PC card. If we're buying a card that we're just going to keep, it's a card we've been looking for, and when we describe a PC card, that means different things to different people as well, right? So some people, they have a list, right? And these are the cards I need to complete my collection, right? And a lot of times, those cards on that list are the hardest cards to come by. So when you finally do see that one card or a couple cards or any card that's on that list that you haven't seen or never seen or never been able to get to, you're paying a little bit stronger on something like that. But in a situation like this is not a PC card for me, right? This is a card eventually I'm going to sell this card. So even though this card may be worth $700, right? Probably more likely next fall or next winter, but not right now. Now there's no push on that card. They're off season, right? She's not even going to be playing till next year. And the downfall is, the reason she gets to play an extra year because she was out injured for 2 seasons, right? Who's to say she's not going to come back and get injured right away? Now, as much as we'd like to think, she could be the next Caitlin Clark next year, I think Caitlin Clark was a perfect storm for women's basketball. And I can't buy a card at next year's comps. I just can't do it. So my thought on this card is that if I can get this card for the right price and just hold it, it's a very good chance this will be profitable, for me in 6 or 7 months, right? When they're back playing basketball. And it's a lot of what I've been doing with my football, right? It's a lot of what I've done on the football. I started buying the football December, January, February, March. I did it last year. I did it again this year. And it's a lot of what I'm doing. I'm buying and holding, and grading and holding, but it is what I'm doing. I'm holding. And it's interesting. I'm getting to these shows now and I'm posting up cards that I'm picking up or I'm getting, and, that are coming back from PSA. And, somebody that I know who very rarely looks at my case, who saw some cards I posted, was so excited to get my case. And it's like, where are all the good cards, And I said, I got to hold them, got to hold on to those. Right. So strong hands. It's what I do. I hold these cards and I wait for them to, like a stock, I wait for them to mature, right? And sell them when it's the right time to sell when the prices are up on them. So on this particular card, I based my offer on the PSA 9, right? The one number to 75. This is how I'm going to work my offer. And I really wasn't willing to go much higher on it. This needed to be a good deal for me, knowing I'll probably have to hold this card, like I said, for a number of months till next, November, December, January, could be even into the NCAA tournament next year. Who knows? Who knows where the hype is going to be come next year? Because nobody knows. I mean, we can all speculate that there's a lot of hype now around women's basketball and women's college basketball, and a number of players there, including Paige Beckers, right? There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. And it's not like it's a $50 card or a $75 card. It's a card that's costing a few $100s. So it took 3 rounds of negotiating with this guy, with this card. But I ended up getting the deal done, and I was slightly over the PSA 9 sale. And I'm happy to have the card. I think I got into it at a good price, at a great price. And again, I could take it to the national, maybe get some interest there. Who knows? But more likely it'll be next fall or even into the winter when this card will mature. And I know we saw it. I mean, the year before, and I made this mistake. I had these thoughts going into the national last year, after the NCAA tournament last year, with this whole thing with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and a lot of people, the value of the Caitlin Clark cards were starting to go up, and people were selling them, and I kind of stayed away. I'm like, I don't know about college. Nobody likes, I've been stuck in this mentality with the hobby for so long that nobody likes a college uniform card. When it comes to football, everybody's like, oh, it's college uniform. No, I don't want that. Everybody wants them in their professional uniform. So I kind of stayed away. And some of those cards last year that I could have gotten into them for, $100 or $200, were then selling this year for $1,000 or $2,000, these on-card autos and things like that of Caitlin Clark. So I don't mind this year, seeing it a year out, looking ahead now. I don't mind making some investments in some cards just to put aside, as long as the price is right. Can't pay top dollar on those cards. You definitely have to pay off-season, low prices that people are just trying to get out of the card. And I know I've been there on cards before, and I could see that in this guy's eyes that was selling me the card. I could see it in his eyes that he just wanted to get out of this card. So I knew if I just stayed firm, I was going to end up with that card. And I kind of said to him too, look, I'm your only guy. I'm probably the only guy in this whole show that I have any interest in this card. So, I mean, if you want to sell it today, here is my offer. If not, that's fine. I'm happy. And that's kind of maybe the difference too. I mean, I'm happy to walk away. I'm happy not to overpay on a card, especially if it's not going into my PC. And I know when it comes to figuring out values on low pop cards or cards with no recent sales, or even a comparison like a raw card to a PSA 9 or a BGS to a PSA, or a SGC to PSA or BGS, right? Everyone is all over the place. And sometimes it just feels the calculations always favor whoever's making the calculations. Right. It's like I sit at shows and I talk to people and they'll be like, oh, PSA 9 went for this, or BGSI. And I'm like, where's this coming from? Like, who made up this calculation? Right. I mean, everybody comes to these tables and they're always, and it's in their mind what they're doing. Right. But I don't know who's teaching it to them, or if they're coming up on their own. I was talking to my guy, Chris, Blanket Card Collector. He's been a guest on the show a number of times. I was talking to him this week, and he talked about a formula that he had gone by for years. He got that from Blowout back in 2017. And kind of the gist of the conversation we had was that these formulas are all gone now. It's like, who knows? Like, they're all over. The prices are just all over the place. He sent me a screenshot of 2023 Prism Anthony Richardson autographed green scope to 75. So the raw card sold for $1,300. The PSA 9 card sold for $1,205, and the PSA 10 card sold for $2,025. So these are all three sales within days of each other. And it almost doesn't make any sense. So really you know, what formula is this? Is there a formula now? Does anybody actually use a formula, or is it just we basing everything on just what other people have already paid? And because that's really what it seems like it comes down to. We're just basing it on what other people have already paid. But then we have like these eBay sales that aren't even correct, right? If somebody's driving sales up, somebody's driving sales down, driving prices up. All of a sudden these auctions aren't getting paid for. So, and even if they are getting paid for, are they the right price? Is this what the current comp is? I did an episode earlier in the season called PSA 10 or bust. And even in this case right here, it would make more sense for the PSA 9 to crack it out and sell it for raw and try to recoup the grading fees, right? It just almost makes no sense to me. I saw Jonathan, basketball card guy, at this Trumbull show, and we were also talking about, prices and comps and things like that. And I said to him, I said, I think if eBay went out or the internet went out, nobody would buy anything at a card show. Nobody would buy, nobody would sell, nothing would happen because nobody would even know. You would have to go back and trust people to say, oh, well, this is worth this, or this is worth that. And I'm not saying this in a bad, because I do the same thing. I mean, I go into a show and I got my phone out and I'm looking up prices. And a lot of these prices, what are we doing? We're basing these on what other people have already paid. What do you think? Do you have a formula that you use? Please leave it in the comments. I'd be interested to hear how people are comping their cards when there's no comps. Like, what are you thinking of? I broke down me buying this card, right? Now, it's really not a formula. It's just what I was willing to pay, and I gave all the reasonings behind it, right? Is that what everybody else is doing? Do we have many reasonings behind it? Or can we quickly look at this and say, okay, I have a formula here. And is that formula that the raw is more than PSA 9 now? Even though we've spent to have this card, we spent the money to send it out and have this card, encased and graded and everything else. Is that raw card, because there's a chance that card may gem, that it's worth more than? And how do you know if this card has already been graded somewhere else and it came back an 8 or a 9 and cracked out? Like there's and I see a lot of these cards selling on eBay. I would be nervous. I'd be very nervous to spend $1,200 or $1,300 on a raw card on eBay without being able to really look at this card up close and to be able to really inspect this card to see if, because really there's not a lot in those photos. And I've talked about this on other episodes, that I've gotten cards off of eBay, and where the angles and the pictures, like the card looks so fantastic, and then it shows up, and I don't even have to put it under my my big magnifying glass. I'm looking at it, I'm like, how did I not see this? And I go back and every photo was angled correctly, that you just didn't see this big scratch or a dimple or something on there. And then it just wastes everybody's time, because I don't want to keep the card. I can't do anything with the card. Now I have to return the card, or, contact the seller and be like, is you took these pictures, purposely, so that I wouldn't see, or anybody would see, where the damage was on the card. But anyways, getting back to it, what do you think? Do you have a formula? Please leave it in the comments. Let me know. Jeff did come to the show, and we ended up making a deal. Shout out to him. He gave me a great deal on this Alex Morgan Pitch Queens gold, number to 10. Hold that up. There you go. As you can see, I'm getting some use out of the bad hand here. It's about all I can do is lift up these little cards. Last week's episode ended up being shorter than usual. And after I finished, I'm like, why was that so short? And I realized I had a whole little thing I was going to talk about last week that I never even, after I finished the episode, I completely forgot. And that, I guess that's a kind of, even though I have notes on here, I guess sometimes you just forget. But, I talked about a number of episodes ago, getting a lot of cards back from PSA that were 9s and thinking that some of these really could be 10s. So, I really kind of went through, I cracked 7 of them out and sent them back to PSA. 4 came back 9s again, but 3 came back 10s. So I'll share the one was the Trinity Rodman landmarks, right? So I have and I have the little I'll put that up there in front of it, the little thing here in front of it. The old label. So this card here was only a pop 1 until this card became a 10. So I had sent 7 of these cards in, and they all came back 9s. And when I cracked them out and I really went through them, I said, let me do it one at a time on these. What I thought this one was the absolute best of all the cards that I'd sent. So I sent that, and it came back a 10. So I was excited about that. Yeah, next one is Anthony Richardson Optic Preview Pink. Same thing. So the old 9, and now it's got a 10. And the third one was an Anthony Richardson Disco. Was a 9, came back a 10. So there's a lot of validity, when I'm at a show and I see people like pull a PSA 9 out of my case and they've got their phone out and they're, looking all over it, that, that they feel that, and I know they're looking to buy it so they could just crack it and resubmit it, right? So, all I did was just wipe these things down with a fiber cloth, microfiber cloth. I didn't have to do much else, and I was almost 50%, right? I was under 40%. So is there a formula here? Would I imagine if 40% of all the PSA 9s, or 35% or 40%, whatever that percentage is, I get back, could probably be 10s, right? It makes you wonder, man. It doesn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy. It makes me feel like I should be probably cracking more 9s out and sending them back if I want to spend the money, right? Because it's not only for the grading, but you have to, it's the shipping and everything else on it. So if the card is important enough, and kind of on these two right here, I felt that the difference between a 9 or a 10, actually all 3 of them, actually all 7 of them, really, the difference between a 9 and a 10 were big enough for me to take a chance and send it back. So, and I just had an order that just completed from PSA that's being shipped back from me. And I checked the tracking yesterday on it, and I noticed that it's being shipped out of New Jersey. So every order I've sent to PSA, I've sent to California, and it's come back from California. The tracking's always been from California. This is the first one coming from New Jersey. So I have to imagine that they're expanding now and doing a lot more, in their New Jersey office as well. And it looks like just in time for the National, they put out a special. It's a May special. It's minimum 10 items. It's $15.99 per card with a 50-day return, right? So if you get that done soon, you'll get your cards back before the National if they stick to that 50-day return, right? And as excited as I was to see that, because I've got a lot of these optic football cards I've been winning in breaks. Then you hear all the news that PSA is returning the optic football cards because Panini has not provided them with the checklist, right? That they're sending the cards back ungraded and all these other things. And as I was putting this together, I just went on and I see there's an article dated 5/24 that says PSA has received the checklist and will start grading these cards. So I'm going to confirm again. I'm putting an order together. I've been putting an order together, but I'm going to confirm again before I ship my order that they're actually grading these cards. Because there's nothing worse than getting a card back from PSA ungraded, whatever the reason is, but still having to pay for the grading. Most annoying thing. And a couple of times that's happened to me, that I turn around and sent the card right back and they've graded it. So it's who knows what's going on over there sometimes. One other cool pickup I had this week was I picked up this ticket from Caitlin Clark's first WNBA game. They played the Connecticut Sun here in Connecticut. I don't really have a thing to hold this in, so I figured I would just put it in that and I'll show you. So I'm happy to have this, and I'm hoping that at some point she will do a signing. I'm sure she will, and I'll be able to get this ticket signed, and then I'll send it into PSA and get it authenticated and holdered. So, just one more thing, right? I'm working on a guest for Thursday's episode, so you don't want to miss that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And remember, tonight, if you're listening to this today, right, because I'm going to drop this right away. It's Sunday today. If you're listening to it tonight, good deals, eBay, PWCC, other online auctions. Go take a look. Maybe you'll find yourself a great little deal. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. Until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.